Beers and Banter, episode 37. We've got a change of scenery tonight. Fan favourite Timmy is back in the house, introducing a new squad member to the Beers and Banter family. Hit it, Timmy. Timmy, welcome back.
Thank you, mate. Well, welcome. Well, you welcome, actually, because we're in my place today. So welcome, Matt. Welcome down, Matt.
I'll tell you what,
Made it across the border.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Oh, okay. Did you want to... we can edit that out later.
Yeah, we'll do that.
You did get a sticker.
This is a lot nicer than the sweaty box. This is like the music box.
Yeah,
it's an actual room.
Full climate control. Plenty of things to play with in here. Guitars, drums.
You can play them all, apparently.
I can play. I attempt to play everything. That's correct.
And we've got a new squad member tonight.
Hello. I'm
Mark, Youngy. What are we calling you?
Oh, whatever you like, really.
Bit of jack of all, master of none.
Yeah. Mark, geezer, Youngy.
Jiu Jitsu enthusiast.
Enthusiast,
practitioner.
So you're our new go-to guy for a martial arts chat.
For really bad advice, yeah.
Yeah.
Brown belt.
Yeah, I am.
That's a good achievement.
You're also a Grand Wizard electrician too.
Well, I've started a few fires, yeah.
Jesus.
Just quietly.
That's good. How's the weekend, fellas? What did you get up to?
Well, a bit of fishing for me.
Me too.
So actually golf and fishing, it was kind of normal, back to normal
Just
now.
an ultimate weekend then.
Yeah, pretty much. What about you, Youngie?
I don't know if I'm incriminating myself, but may have done some jiu-jitsu over the weekend.
Did some
Did you
solo.
really?
Solo
Solo drills. Me and a few others did some solo spacing, and then it was my birthday on Saturday. So
Happy birthday.
Mate, happy
thanks,
birthday.
boys, yeah.
Yep.
46.
I'm just going to
Yeah, you are getting old.
apologise to anyone listening. First time we've tried to eat and pod at the same time, so I don't know how it's going to go. But
No, it's going good.
It's sounding good. Hang on.
Tim picked the pizzas. We're not allowed barbecue sauce.
yeah, what sort of an atrocity is that? No barbecue sauce.
Hang on a sec. What sort of an atrocity is it to not like pepperoni pizza?
Mate,
start with that.
pepperoni is...
Come on.
I don't know. I don't mind a bit of pepperoni, but just a flat out no when Youngie asked for barbecue sauce, I thought was a bit rich.
Staunch.
Staunch, no.
Staunch.
I'm not wearing it.
Mate, I've been
normal.
to restaurants with him, and mate, it goes back.
Hang on a sec. Italian. So you two are going to argue with an Italian about how to make pizza and what's proper toppings. Be careful what you're getting into here.
Which is why we don't eat on the pod. I've got my mouth full.
I can hear.
Yeah. But in fairness, the pizza's pretty good.
It's sounding
good,
really
mate.
good.
Righto, that could be my last bite for a bit.
No, very good.
Who watched Footy? Footy was back on the weekend. Big news.
Yeah, I did. I watched the Eels and Broncos.
Oh, did you?
I did watch that.
Something
I'm
different for you?
Yeah, well, it seemed like a big occasion. It had been a lot of hype around it all happening. I mean, I was really keen to just see sport in general, come back, just to see some normality, I suppose, to what we're kind of used to. I did watch it. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was a pretty good game. Yeah. Broncos got beaten.
Yeah.
Eels are looking like the real deal.
Looking good.
Titans had a rough night on Friday night.
Did they?
Yeah, signs of life. There are a couple of positives there, but really outplayed by North Queensland.
What did you think about the crowd noise on watching the games?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Just adds to it a little bit as long as it doesn't go overboard. What I do like hearing is the impacts, though. Similar on the UFC, but I like hearing the impacts on the footy. So, those collisions.
So what's the deal with the crowds? Because I did not.
So
watch
the crowd, what they've got is a simulated crowd noise.
No.
So before we go on, we are drinking
7
Mile. This is a local beer, 7 Mile Brewery in Ballina. So they actually do, since everything's kicked off, obviously it's pretty tough for small businesses and small breweries, but these guys are now doing free deliveries to a lot of local postcodes. So you can order online, they'll deliver for free, and they're delivering nationally now as well.
Nationally?
Yeah. So this is an IPA we're drinking. This is quite a strong beer, very hoppy beer. It's a West Coast IPA.
Bit fruity?
Well, it's hoppy. I mean, you obviously... Oh, geez, that's the second beer I've destroyed of yours, Mark.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's
How do
Like
you
an
like
ice cream, oh yeah.
How do you like your head? A foot
yeah,
deep.
yeah, foot deep. Just,
But this is pretty cool. We've actually had this once before.
We did
This is
have
the,
this on the pod.
Yeah, this is the
cheers, mate.
what's it called? The keg.
It's like an Irish coffee.
It's like a growler. Yeah, but so West Coast IPA 7.5%, something like that. It's
So
very
that's
strong.
my only glass then.
No, you'll be
Alright.
right. Yep, you'll be fine. So sorry, the crowds. Is that what we were talking about?
Fake crowd noise.
Fake
crowd noise.
crowd
So it
noise.
even builds. They even have like booing.
There was
Really?
a little bit of controversy too on the weekend. At the moment, you can pay $22 and get your cardboard cutout put in one of the seats at the footy.
You're kidding.
But someone's used the image of a serial killer.
Ah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good.
Which
and it's
serial
solid.
killer?
I don't know. Oh,
That's $22. That's $22
That is
well spent.
That is well spent.
I've seen a few different variants of what people were planning to do, but yeah, that one slipped through the NRL's quality control, and obviously someone noticed it on the weekend.
Yep.
One of the most prolific serial killers, apparently.
That's terrible. Terrible.
Just getting cheered on by Ivan Milat. He's out.
Not great.
Chopper's here.
But there you go. So that's what I was talking about, the crowd noise.
Anyway, footy's back. It's good for the NRL. There's not much footy going on around the world, so I think Fox even played some of the games into America, which big for exposure for rugby league.
When's the Premier League kick back in?
What's
I
that?
saw something. The Premier League.
What's that?
Over in the UK.
What game's that?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Is that the kickball stuff?
we could always talk about the Titans.
Oh, Liverpool. Liverpool's my team actually this year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's my son's team, but they would never be my team in England. But my team's Wimbledon, and miles away Liverpool. My kids here love it.
Yeah.
It's Liverpool mad. In fact,
They're supposed to win. They're like 1 or 2 games short of getting handed the trophy, aren't they?
Yeah, so they were doing really well, and then just flatlined it.
Stop.
Well,
Pause.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know how they're going over there. How long?
I
till they
don't
kick
know.
off.
I just wondered if it was kicking back in. So
I know some of is it Bundesliga? Some of that's
is
come
that
back.
back in?
I think it's come back, yeah.
I think kids sports starting soon. The training's back now. So next week all the kids start.
Yeah, but you've got to wrap your kid in glad wrap,
Yeah,
and you've got to stay in the car. You're not allowed to get
So
out.
how bizarre is this? You can have 50 people in a pub. You can have 1,000 kids at school.
Yeah.
But you can have 10 training together. How does
Yeah.
that make any sense? So the training has to be split into 2 squads, and they've got to sanitise and everything, which you'd expect. That's pretty normal. But how do you have 50 people are allowed in a pub, 1,000 kids, and the actual ruling that come back from the schools is they're not enforcing social distancing.
At school?
Not they're
mate,
they're basically.
enforcing that with a
Yeah,
kid.
how do you have 30 kids in a class? It just wouldn't work. Like if you're going to bring the school back,
Yeah.
there's no way you can possibly fit 1,000 kids. And I mean, I'm choosing one school as an example, but all of them that I'm aware of basically going that way. So how do you have that, yet you can't have the kids play sport on the weekend? How do you not have, in an open field, allow 15 kids to
Yeah,
run around?
I don't understand that.
That's madness.
Mate,
But
you
it
can't
is-
put 2 kids in a room and say stay apart.
Yeah.
So you try that.
But that's a good thing. I mean, to see the kids' sports obviously come back, I'm really keen to see that.
Yeah, I think kids need it.
Oh,
They
mate.
go and stir crazy at home.
100%, like a lot of, you look at the fact that's what that's their release. That's when they catch up with their friends on the weekends. That's when
There's
you can-
nothing good on the news for them to look at the moment.
No,
No.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like what? Like what's going on in the States at the moment?
That is just it's just bizarro world at the moment. Like
It's crazy.
I'm not going to make light of it. It's certainly serious, and I'm not going to be honest. I can't make a call either way, other than it's clearly what kicked it all off was an atrocity. But it was very hard to explain to the kids when it popped up on the news the other day. They're like, "Why would that policeman do that?" And I was trying to have a really measured conversation with them where police officers have got probably the toughest job in the world with the people that their clientele that they deal with day in, day out. But then trying to explain to the kids that every now and then it doesn't matter what the profession is, that there's a person that's just not a good person.
So-
Like it doesn't matter what it is.
Let
Like,
me ask you this, Youngy. So you obviously do jiu-jitsu. You've been training for how many years did it take you to get your brown belt, by the way?
About 8.
8 years.
About 8.
So 8 years. So would you consider it reasonable force to have 4 people, trained professionals that are trained in restraining someone, to have them in that position on the ground? I mean, without knowing the background of how the arrest went down, and I haven't really overly looked into those sort of details, what's your initial thoughts when you look at that? That just seems to me, it seems crazy.
It seems just a little bit unnecessary considering he was already cuffed.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going anywhere.
On the ground.
Once you're cuffed with your arms behind you, where are you going to go?
You're not going to go far. Some dudes do get up and run, but the thing about
Put your knee in the back of his leg.
In the centre of his back, maybe.
It was on his neck.
The funny thing is, there's 4 guys holding him down, or 3 guys or whatever holding him down. He's already down. He doesn't need to be pinned anymore. He's given up, and by the sounds of it, he'd already got to that stage pretty placidly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the notion that cops know how to restrain people is actually a false one.
So I would, and that was actually something that I looked at. There was another shooting with a guy that was attacked with he attacked a police officer with a knife, and it went I haven't looked right into it, but the basics of it was he was known to police, and he'd suffered from mental, had some mental issues, and he'd got himself into a position where he's surrounded by police, and this is, I think, an issue where, as law enforcement, they need to be trained to deal with people and to be able to restrain them in a non-lethal way. But they also need to be trained to deal with people in that capacity. Like if someone's, and again, I'm not an expert, but if someone is, say, schizophrenic or something like that, they're enraged, they're with a knife, I would think the last thing you'd want to do is surround them with guns, screaming at them to get on the ground. What would you think is going to happen in that situation? And I'm not saying that police are doing the wrong thing, but I think it's hard when you're kind of looking at that situation and you think, well, is there something we could have done slightly better? Like maybe should we have backed away? Maybe, what could we use non-lethal? Like how have we not developed non-lethals? Like it's just crazy to think that someone with a knife can't be taken down any other way without a gun these days.
Well,
that just seems mad to me.
They rarely use them. So they don't use the tasers.
Just make sure you're talking straight in the barrel of it.
Straight in the barrel, mate. Just swallow it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so they've got tasers, which they don't seem to ever use. They've got batons, which they never seem to use. And they don't actually really do any sort of handling training. So they don't do any jiu-jitsu. And I know for a fact that when we've had, because I used to train at a CrossFit club, in fact, the same club Tim's at, and you'd have coppers in there and you say, do you want to come and do some jiu-jitsu? They didn't want to know. They didn't want to, they love the CrossFit. They sort of love staying super fit. And you can get it in your head that, oh, yeah, I'm super fit, therefore I can handle anyone. And it's a skill.
So because obviously even in, would I be correct in saying that football clubs, rugby league clubs, have engaged wrestling coaches for that specific reason, that obviously the importance of, if you can know how to use your body weight, how to restrain them, then obviously tackle. That's a thing now. Am I right in saying that?
Well, it's been a bugbear for a lot of fans for a long time that they're sick of the wrestle, and it was something that was brought in by certain clubs, and the NRL's tried a couple of times to bring in rules to try and sort of get around it, but they're all employing a wrestling coach, and they're all doing wrestle on a regular basis, whether they call it wrestle or something else. But it's all about winning that ruck, and it's those same concepts. Yeah.
If you look at any wrestler, like their skill is not getting taken down.
Yeah.
In the UFC, you see anyone who's got a wrestling background, if they want to stay standing, they're staying standing, and that's something that needs to be sort of brought in, I suppose, because when rugby goes to the ground or league goes to the ground, it's you've lost. You got 6 cracks at getting up there.
It's been around for a long, long time. It's not a new concept at all in the footy that you're always trying to find your front. So if you can land on your hands and knees with the ball, you're gonna get up quicker and play the ball. But if you get we used to call it you got to try and turtle them. You got to put them on their back, pin them down by the collar, and then work your way around, stand up, and then they can't get up until you release them. So that was it was basically we were being trained, and this is like 20 years ago. Make it look like you're getting up, but the whole time you're actually pinning them down. So make it look like you're making the effort to get off them.
Yep.
So when the ref's going, get off, you look like you're moving off them, but they can't physically get up until you're standing in front of them. But if they find their hands and knees, they're going to get up, quick play the ball, and the marker's going to be.
So you're keeping your body weight on them all.
But it could be something as simple as just holding their collar to the ground. If you're on your back and someone's got a hold of your collar to the ground, you're not going anywhere until they let it go. It's something as simple as that.
Well,
that's 20 years ago, so I'm sure they're better than that now.
That's a core principle with jiu-jitsu, is you're just constantly...
Oh, Youngy, that's one of your go-to moves, is it?
Mate.
In the collar. I thought it was a spider guard.
No, yeah, I used to like that. You have phases in jiu-jitsu, so you 1 minute I like this, and the next minute you like that. So where I'm at now, I like being the guy that's on top. So I spend a lot...
So let's just break it down. Actually, this is a good segue. So there's a lot of people that think jiu-jitsu is just a bunch of guys, sweaty guys, rolling around, and it's an excuse for guys to roll around with each other.
Yeah.
So you've just jumped... So you prefer to have the guy on top, or you prefer to be...
I used to be the guy on the bottom, but now...
Yeah,
definitely like being the guy on the top.
And have you ever taken a guy from behind? Is that...
Many a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 I don't know what you're insinuating there, Tim.
I'm just trying to squash these rumours about the fact that jiu-jitsu is just a bunch of, guys just make an excuse to roll around. So that was
Can I
just...
lift that like that?
You can...
Does that go up? Because I feel like I'm just leaning in.
You're going to be on
Mate,
the
where
ground.
did you get this gear from?
That's for my height.
Yeah. So if I tighten that up...
What's being proven over and over again, particularly in you mentioned the UFC, is that if you've got no jiu-jitsu game or wrestling game, then you're vulnerable. Some of these guys that are great strikers, but they end up on the ground and they're in
Chuck
trouble.
Liddell a good... Wasn't he?
He was a quality grappler. So he
never was on the ground because he just, as soon as anyone would take him down, he'd be back on his feet. And you would not know that you'd watch him and think he's just a stand-up guy.
What's the big difference between, because obviously there's different types of grappling. You got like the more traditional wrestlers, and then you've got the jiu-jitsu guys, and then you've got different kinds of...
Yeah. So
what's the big difference between like jiu-jitsu and wrestling?
Well, jiu-jitsu would be your submission, like a submission-based grappling. So it was like an extension of judo. So you had judo, which was taking guys to the ground, and then what happened is a guy went over to Brazil, brought it with him to
From
Brazil.
Japan?
Yep. And he showed a family over there his judo game and I can't remember the name of the other game that goes along with it, but he basically showed them the basics of jiu-jitsu, and then they just expanded it and said, look, we're going to stay on the ground, keep the fight on the ground, and carry on going from here,
what are we doing?
And I've really chewed that up badly, but that's pretty much what's happened with...
So
with
in
that
wrestling, they're not actually going for a submission, or what are they doing?
They're more pinning them down, aren't
yeah,
they?
they're pinning them, and
it's about control. Would that be right?
Yeah, there's different types of wrestling. So you've got the freestyle stuff that you see in the States, and that's a kind of a sport where they're trying to get the guy on his back.
Yep.
Whereas with jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. You go on your back, you carry on fighting, you're looking for a submission.
So that's why in wrestling, they're not as worried about giving up their back.
Well,
like getting on their hands and knees, and then they can push themselves back up. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you do not want to give up your back to someone, do you?
In jiu-jitsu, you're gonna, if you give up your, that's what we call prime real estate. So if you get someone's back, that's the best chance you've got of finishing them, because all your limbs are facing forward. All the guy's limbs that he can fight you with are facing away from you, and his neck is pretty easy to hook in and get.
Flatten him out, stretch him out, kink the neck.
Yeah,
which has happened to McGregor in his fight with Nate Diaz.
Yeah. Well, when Nate Diaz got McGregor, what happened was I think McGregor was looking to get submitted.
Yeah, he was going to get knocked out.
Yeah, he knew he was going to get knocked out.
He had enough.
I reckon he had enough.
Yeah.
Didn't Nate say that at the end of the fight?
I think he made...
He obviously, he said something along the lines of...
I said, something about they're all strikers, and then at the end they always want to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's right.
Something along them lines.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of amateur... I've been to a lot of amateur fights with Tim, actually. And
they're good.
Yeah.
Mostly at the pub, started by Tim.
Nah.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
There's a local guy that we used to train with, a guy called Brenton, that we used to go and follow. Brenton Mumford. He's still fighting. He's a bit of a beast, but we used to go and watch him, and we used to go up to this Fight World Cup, and then it went on. I think he's fighting XFC now. But what you'll see is the difference between the amateurs and as when the main cards come on, those guys are like moving up towards professional.
Yeah.
And what you'll see is, especially in the real sort of early stages of the amateur guys, they will have had enough, but they don't want to get knocked out. So they will pretty much roll over, give the guy their back so that they can tap. So they'll get rear naked choke and they'll get the tap. So they'll take a loss,
but not the head damage.
And they won't take the head trauma. Yeah,
it's probably smart.
Have you ever, just talking about jiu-jitsu, obviously, have you ever injured? Is there anything that stands out in your mind of anyone like injuries and stuff like that?
I had, funnily enough, I was rolling with a guy once, and he was on top, and he was kind of springing around like a cat, and his toe dislocated. And
no, his toe snapped off. It didn't dislocate.
His toe totally dislocated / what do they call it when it punches the skin? Compound. It was a compound. Yeah. It would be it's the only one I've ever seen, a compound dislocation. So I was rolling with Tim, and Tim was winning because this is 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, seven and a half years.
Still was a long time
still
ago.
Registered as a lethal weapon. He is.
He's a beast. He was good. But yeah, so he's on the top, and then just in the gap between his pinky toe and his toe here, there's just this white shiny ball, and his toe had dislocated, and then compound fractured it through that. Is that fractured? Fractured and split through there. Yeah.
Oh, it was bad.
Oh, mate, it was no good.
It didn't hurt at the time. It was just like a pop. And
Yeah.
I had to say stop. And then we looked down. I could just see my toe pointing sideways in the bone pushing.
The shiny,
average.
mate. You could see the spot where the arthritis is coming.
Yeah, definitely.
I was hoping we'd have a little bit more room actually here, and I was hoping you guys might be able to show us some moves.
Maybe no chance.
Maybe next time I come down.
He has been trying to, and I know he wants to get me back on the mats so he can just choke me out.
I'd love to have a go, but I just have my shoulder put back together, so I don't think it's my
Mate,
I don't think it's a sport for me. I don't think it is.
It's 100%.
It is a good sport.
Everything hurts on me,
It's
and
good
I
fun.
still go.
You know,
so
good
addicted.
crew, good bunch of guys. Actually, Portal.
Oh yeah, I've got my shirt.
Yeah,
on.
Portal.
This is the only one
Jiu-Jitsu.
without.
We got a shout out to the local jiu-jitsu crew.
100%.
My local club is Portal.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Good bunch of guys.
Yeah.
I better see a lot of comments below from the dudes at Portal.
Yep, I'll tell them, both of them. No,
it's two more listens than we normally get. I like it.
Yeah, so we're just round the corner actually from Tim. So we're the local industrial.
I try not to let people know
we
where I live. And
so
it's mainly because all the girls.
Last time Tim showed his face on the pod, we had to shut it down. Yeah,
just dudes just ringing in. Keen as.
Just dick pics.
Yeah.
This is going downhill. So you mentioned the UFC before.
Yeah, I did.
One of the Ben Askren pointed out yesterday. Ben Askren pointed out yesterday that they've got a couple of dramas at the moment, and that the majority of their champions can't fight in the men's division. So you've got Cejudo has vacated 125 and 135.
Yep.
You've got Alex Volkanovski stuck in Australia.
Yeah, he's down in Sydney, I think.
You've got Khabib stuck in Russia.
You have.
You've got
Adesanya.
No. So Kamaru Usman can fight.
Yep.
No, hang on. I've missed a weight division. 165. Who's the champ at 165? Oh, had a shocker there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a shocker because one of the things I'm also.
Oh, not 165. 150. No. So Khabib's at 155, stuck in Russia. 170. You've got Kamaru Usman who can fight. He's the only one in America at the moment. But then at 185, you've got Adesanya. And then you got 205. You got John Jones.
He reckons he's retired, or
he's had enough.
Not fighting, or he was out taking spray cans.
Yeah, I saw that off the riders, which is probably a good thing. He's trying to be a good leader in his community.
Yeah, I like that.
It was basically for any of those people at home that didn't see it. John Jones, UFC light heavyweight champion, was out in the streets of Albuquerque, I think it was, basically taking spray cans off the young fellas that were out there looting and carrying on. It's basically saying you're not doing anything for the cause, which I'm not going to judge that either way, but I would have thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I like that.
From a guy that's probably not got great decision making skills himself.
Yeah.
That was probably a good leadership.
You wouldn't mess with him, would you?
No,
No, God, no.
Here you go, Mr. Jones.
Mate, here's the can.
he's a bit light for me, to be honest. 205. Like,
Did you see how...
got him
I don't think
covered.
he's not 205 at the moment.
What do you reckon he walks around at?
I reckon, God, it'd be 230, 240.
Wow.
Mate, we used
What's
to...
that in Australian kilos, though?
Oh, God.
Bugger all.
Well, it's 2.2, so... Yeah, 220. So it'd be
Yeah.
100 kilos.
Yeah.
He's what,
Got him.
6'4"?
I've got him.
You've got him
And then you
covered.
got Stipe Miocic, or Miocic.
Miocic.
That's probably a
Miocic.
better pronunciation. He's a firefighter doing his day job. So the
I like
UFC,
him. I like him.
the UFC's only got basically one champion at the moment that can fight, even though they're powering on with their cards and they're they're back on track.
What happened to Fight Island? Because it's over in Florida now. So they were going to
Yeah,
do
I
the
don't
Fight
know.
Island and then it...
I
backed
think
off.
the realities
What
of
was
the world
Fight
probably
Island?
kicked in. It
Explain
was
that.
like
He was
Enter
gonna-
the Dragon.
He was gonna buy his own island. He's just Dana White just said,
And then
All right.
that's where we go for
I can't fight.
That's where
On
the
the-
internationals were going to fight. They're going to fly them into the island, but
I think he's
potentially
still keen.
logistics is
He's still keen.
you're dealing with a lot of different countries and a lot of different customs laws. Like, I think it's probably just too much to navigate right now. Like, to trying to make fights and then working out whether or not the fighter can even get out. So Volkanovski, for instance, if Dana puts Fight Island on and he's got to fly from here to there,
How
the
does he
borders
get
are
it?
closed when he comes back.
Yeah, but I suppose if you come back with enough money, you don't mind sitting in
14 days in a hotel.
14-day island there,
But
just eating chips and...
But how real is that? I haven't been to an airport since all of this happens. Like, can you just get on a flight and fly out of the country at the
I
moment?
don't think so. I don't think there's that many
Although
going.
they could probably charter the champ for a private jet.
I'm sure you get on something. 'Cause they're getting people moving around when they need to. But he's been on. I've got an Instagram account which I switch on sort of every once a month or so.
Did you want to plug your
Yeah,
handle?
give it a
Was
plug.
that-
Absolutely no chance. No, no, it's
That's what-
Youngy BJJ, but I probably won't add anyone.
Give him a follow.
But I tell you, the best one is him, Aussie Astronomer. Is it Aussie Astronomer?
It is Aussie.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the science
to
update.
that. But yeah, so I do follow Volkanovski because he happens to be my mate's actually cornered him. The guy we were telling you, Brenton Mumford's
That's
cornered
pretty
him.
cool.
Well, yeah, he's a nice dude because I met Volkanovski. He come up and took a class. So I did a wrestling class with him up at Gunalaba. My mates brought him up. That was just before he got into the UFC.
And before we started recording, you said you made him look pretty silly the day he came up.
Yeah, I totally smashed him. So my mate brings him up, and he was looking like a real likely candidate for getting in the UFC then. And he took a class.
Ex-footy player, ex-NRL player.
Yeah. Mate,
Or rugby league player.
he's as genuinely nice in a room full of 8 people as he is like when you see him on TV.
pretty
you
cool.
think, yeah, he's not faking it. He's a top guy. And I got to wrestle him. All but, it was just totally him being polite. But geez, you get a feeling when you wrestle someone at that level, like, oh shit, he would really smash my face. Yeah, he was, because all his movements were, he's a wrestling based guy, top game, and he was, everyone was a considered sort of position he transitioned into, like, and you're thinking, shit, I'm doing grappling, but this guy's thinking about how he's going to rearrange my face.
So we're trying to work out what that next title fight's going to be, and potentially it's got to be Kamaru Usman, but who's he going to fight?
Oh God, the amount of talk, because I know, I thought McGregor was over in America, but then I found out he's back in. But there's
I
been
don't
so
think
much,
he is, yeah.
and then Masvidal's been having a little bit of a spat with him, but hasn't he, with Usman? And
I can't believe. I'm surprised that's not just the automatic fight. They're both in America. They're both got a good name going.
yeah, but does Masvidal want it? Because I don't reckon he wins that.
You reckon he's dodging it?
I think
You heard it here first. Masvidal is ducking Kamaru Usman.
I don't think he's ducking it, but I don't think he wins it. I don't think he'd duck anything. I think if you chucked him
Yeah, I
with a
don't think so.
rhino, he'd be keen.
Yeah.
He'd be keen. But
Did you see Gaethje versus
God, yeah.
Tony?
mate. We were around my mates
Ferguson?
watching that. Yeah, that was epic.
That did not go the way people thought it was going to.
I
Or did they?
don't think that went that badly for Ferguson, considering he got to walk out there, because he was training for a grappler the whole time. And even though Gaethje's an absolutely brilliant wrestler, he doesn't want to wrestle.
He never goes to the ground.
He knows how much time he's got. It's funny, a mate of mine was saying that, he'll sit there and go, I've got 18 minutes in me, or I've got, he'll tell you how much fight he's got in his body. He knows himself that well. And, he doesn't want to go down because wrestling's exhausting.
Yeah.
And he can bang. He can bang. That hook was just, you heard it without the crowd there.
Yeah.
And it was all of a sudden, oh my God, this sounds like a dude punching a watermelon. Like every time Ferguson got hit in the head, it's like, mate, that's dementia. That's just insanely hard. And how Ferguson just stayed on his feet. Like he actually...
Yeah, couldn't believe that he was taking all those shots, to be honest.
Who dropped who? Gaethje was the one who went down at the end of the second, or was it end of the first or end of the second?
Yep.
That was a peach. That was that uppercut. And I was thinking, yeah, he's turned it around. Because I was rooting for Ferguson. And then, there was a little adjustment going on in the corner with Gaethje. His coach had said, just wind it back a bit. Just stop, I think it was like drop 10%.
Yeah, he did. I heard that. Yeah.
Drop something off your punches.
He was trying to knock him out with every punch.
Yeah, because he said that before. He said, I have so much fun out there. I just want to. And he gets kind of lost in a moment, but he's back in there swinging it. Jeez. He just took some off and found his focus. He got his bit back in his tank. It was killing Ferguson.
It was interesting to hear Eddie Bravo talk about being in Tony's corner and ended up in the wrong spot. He's normally just sort of a sideline guy, offering a little bit of advice on the tactics, and then ended up in front of him trying to help him save the fight. And it was just, he just said he felt like he let him down, which I thought was...
I actually watched that with a bunch of jiu-jitsu guys, and he come out and he's I can't remember what he offered him some...
Aminari roll or something?
Yeah, he told him to try an Aminari.
Is that something you get from Sushi Train?
Like I've seen Tony do that when he's fresh, but he looked like he'd had his lights half punched out.
Yeah, I think even Eddie said that it was not the right time to offer that, but he just got caught deer in the headlights, and he's like, "Oh, try this."
Yeah, that was the worst advice ever, because we were like, all right, there was you're not going to take. He's not going to take as a jiu-jitsu guy. He's not going to take a wrestler down. Wrestlers are better at takedowns than jiu-jitsu guys. Jiu-jitsu guys generally want to go down, so you'll get a jiu-jitsu comp, and where you get points for being the guy that took the guy down, but it's not a loss. So if you're a guard player, if you're the guy that likes to fight off his back anyway, you kind of go, shit, I've gone down, but all right, now we'll get started. I'll get those points back and we'll move on. So the jiu-jitsu guys aren't as good as the wrestlers as a takedown, because that's everything for a wrestler. Whereas with a jiu-jitsu guy, they're basically saying, I want to get started, but to get started, we need to get on the floor. But I don't want to concede points and then start, So I don't want to start 4 points back. So that's how that kind of works out. But, yeah, the wrestling guys are so much better at the takedowns. There's no way Gaethje's getting taken down by Ferguson, even though Ferguson's a freak.
Have you seen that Foxcatcher documentary?
No, but I've heard it mentioned a few times.
What's that?
So that's this.
Has that got Steve Carell in it?
Yeah, it does have Steve. It does have Steve Carell, which is really bizarre, but he plays a serious role, and it's just about it's a billionaire family that.
This just doesn't go up, does it?
It can. I can go around there.
I feel like I'm like
I'll go around
mowing down.
If you want, take it out and hold it if you want.
No, she's good.
I'll fix it. Hang
on. No, you're good.
So I think the movie he's talking about, the guy ended up fighting in the UFC in the early days. I'm fairly sure.
So now bring it down to what you want.
Oh, yeah, sweet. So here we go. back to where it was.
You pulled it there.
I need some more beer. I need some more. Seeing as I'm off the wagon.
Yeah, here we go.
That's a strong gear.
So what are we drinking again? 7
Mile.
7 Mile.
West Coast IPA.
7 Mile Brewing in Ballina, West Coast IPA.
Thanks, mate.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I say
Yeah.
that right?
Cheers, mate.
Oh, we didn't even do a
Thanks.
cheers. Cheers,
Oh, yeah.
boys.
Cheers.
It's only
I wanted
taken
to get some
half an hour.
cocktails. I was telling you.
Well, I've got
Before we
I've got
start.
some stronger stuff here.
Yeah. Hand COVID-19.
This is 70% alcohol. This stuff.
You've been having a shot of that every day since Trump said to get it on your insides,
Yeah,
didn't you?
that's what I thought. 70%. That must be good. We can drink that later.
We'll get on that. And it's blue. Like Powerade.
You don't need to put the what's that blue stuff that you put in a cocktail?
That.
Yeah, that's going nowhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, Foxcatcher, back to your story.
Foxcatcher. So he's a billionaire that basically wants to see the Americans win at wrestling again. And
Yeah.
he, in the end, basically, I won't spoil the ending. You should watch it. It's just absolutely the most bizarre character. And I actually saw, so there's the one with Steve Carell, but then there's also actual proper documentary as well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's actually two, and I've watched both.
Joe Rogan gets angry about this all the time.
About
This
what?
about the movie.
The Foxcatcher, in the fact that it's not true.
No, there's like some tiny little detail that they changed in the movie that Joe doesn't
Is
like.
this an old movie?
Yeah, it's been around for ages.
Oh, this is the one the wrestlers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They
yeah,
move
yeah.
to,
I
they
do
move out
know.
to the
Yeah.
ranch.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, you got to watch it. It is bizarre, this character. But
Because
to
he
be
fights
honest-
in the UFC at some point.
I didn't think the UFC. He does wrestle.
Or maybe, sorry, he fights in mixed martial arts. At
He
some
does
point.
wrestle, but the guy himself, but the billionaire. But you've got to watch it. And Steve Carell, to his credit, does a bang on job with the character.
He's got a serious side to him. Have you seen that Morning Wars?
No,
It's on Apple.
No, I haven't.
So he plays like plays a bit of a creep, to be honest, because it's like about breakfast TV in America, and he's like the co-host, but it comes out that he's been doing inappropriate things with some of his colleagues.
What specifically?
What?
Yeah,
You can watch that for yourself.
Tell us.
yeah, we want the good bits.
Anyway, it's Steve Carell, very serious. But
Yeah.
I've been watching another show of his. It's called Space Force. I thought it'd be right up your alley.
So I think it might have been Sunday night. We put that on, and I was that tired. I don't even think I made the opening scene.
Check it out. It's basically as if, when Trump announced that there was going to be a Space Force and there's going to be another arm to the defense.
That's correct.
So they've played on that, and they've basically they're trying to get to the moon.
I saw that, and then it said from the guy that brought you The Office, and I was like, that was Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais is
Ricky
a legend.
Gervais,
My
yeah.
favourite comedian.
Oh, I'm watching one of his shows at the moment,
one?
Afterlife. Have you seen that?
Afterlife.
So
yeah.
Afterlife is not. It's Afterlife is one of these movies. It's funny, but then it's an absolute tearjerker as well.
Mate, I go from pissing
Yeah.
myself laughing to bawling, crying. Missy put it
I
on.
know.
Missy put it on the telly the other night, and then went to sleep. So I'm like sitting there,
Yeah. So you're right.
just crying on my own.
It's just you're from one extreme to the other in the space of about 5 minutes. But so that's brilliant. But he's got a lot of obviously good series. I mean, The Office is a classic.
I've never really watched the British version of The Office.
It's
Oh,
the
God.
American version. You may as well
I know everyone says that.
burn it. That's another series.
I reckon it's
that's
pretty good
hilarious.
though. I love that. I know what's the shit stirrer in The Office. You know the shit stirrer in the American version. Like
I
he's
don't
always,
know. I've never watched it.
He's always taking the piss out of the. I don't know. He's always
Oh,
taking
is
I
his
couldn't
name
watch
Tim?
the American one.
maybe.
So
And he's the new guy. He's the Jason. Is it Jason Bourne in the TV series in Jason Bourne?
no, I haven't seen that either.
I don't know.
But you got to watch another one's called Extras. So
Oh.
Extras is hilarious. So that's another Ricky Gervais. And it's basically he plays a part of an extra in movies, and they have a lot of celebrities come in. But there's definitely The Office. You've got to watch that.
No, I
version,
don't.
The
I'm
original
not gonna.
version.
That's old
You
as
need
well.
to. But it's still a classic.
Mate, it's good. We used to watch it when we were snowboarding. We have it, and they used to play it in New Zealand at the time, and we'd all go around watch it in a
Why
caravan.
didn't we get? Why did we get the American version heavier than we did the British version? in
because he's a
Australia?
brilliant businessman.
Oh,
So he wouldn't want to have made it himself. But, I think
He only
likes to
made
move-
2 seasons.
Yeah, he likes to move from project to project. But, I mean, obviously.
Oh, there's only 2 seasons of the
Two
British
seasons.
team.
British ones. There's like 7 of the. Is there 7 or 8?
Yeah, there's heaps of the American one.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Any other good stuff on? Do you watch that Momentum Generation? That was
I
required.
did.
required viewing.
Required
I didn't.
viewing. And I did
Didn't
watch it.
I've started to notice, and it's something I may have spoken on the pod previously. Psychopathic tendencies in elite sportsmen,
Oh God, yeah.
and not that Kelly Slater's not a psychopath. I'm joking, obviously, but just that there's something in them that just like that white line fever that.
So I didn't watch that. What's the...
So Momentum Generation is like the Kelly Slater story, or not just Kelly Slater, but Kelly Slater's crew.
Yep.
And they were called the Momentum Generation, or Momentum was a surf film
Yeah, they made
Taylor Steele. It was like the first surf film that had like punk
So
rock.
was that a surf
Yeah.
film or a surf team?
No, it was a surf film. So remember,
Film.
like I don't know if you watched surf videos when you were a kid, and there was just like punk rock in the
I used to
background.
watch skate videos.
I was going to say.
Plan B,
I was going to say.
Rodney Mullen.
You would know because, like the video, was it the video where your truck's getting flipped? Is in a skateboard video.
It's in heaps of surf movies.
He's
What happened? Why haven't I heard this story?
Well, I actually had a Land Cruiser FJ40 and
The greatest vehicle of all time.
absolutely
Yeah.
mint, soft top, no roof. Anyway, we're
you
down
lost
at
me.
we're at the sand dunes in Kurnell, and we've flying around. Anyway, I've hit this sand dune and we've launched the car. I don't know, it's come about maybe 2 meters in the air and landed down beautifully and drove away. Anyway, I've had this guy come running across, and he was filming a surf movie, and he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I get some footage of you doing that again?" I'm like, 100%. Let's do it. So then I've gone around. I've had 2 mates jump. There was 4 of us in the car. So the 2 in the back have said, "No, we're getting out." Because what it's like in the back of a car. They've come up. So we've gone around, and obviously it's getting filmed this time. So I've hit it twice as hard. We've launched the car. It's landed. It's come down, landed on its side, then let me bounce straight onto the roof. So anyway, as it's happening, it was sort of, it's like adrenaline kicks in and everything's happening in slow motion. So I remember myself, my back hitting the sand because we didn't have any seatbelts on.
Oh, Jesus.
My back
It's great.
My back hit the sand, and I remember looking at the car thinking, shit, here it comes. And then bang, it come down, and I ended up being on my back in the driver's seat, luckily, because we had a proper roll cage and everything like that.
I've always wondered what happened to you, Tim. That's
It's 100% what happened. That's one of the cars I smashed that week. And then I looked across, and my mate was actually buried into the sand, not moving.
Oh, shit.
So I've managed to crawl out the window.
Wipe your prints off him.
Yeah. And I looked around and tried to run and realised it was being filmed. So I managed to crawl out the window. We went to everybody's stage. A lot of people had run over.
yeah.
We ended up flipping the car over. My mate was fine. We all ended up being fine, very luckily. The diffs were bent like bananas. They were like on a 45-degree angle.
What'd you tell the insurance company? It was an accident?
No, well, it was
Stolen.
In those days, if you were driving off, I didn't have off-road insurance, and it was going to be nearly impossible to prove how I did that on the road. So that was a car that was a complete write-off, obviously.
That is a shame. My dad had one of those as a kid, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, but
four speed.
that car's in a ton of surf videos. So the momentum, back
where
to
are we
momentum.
looking? Where are we looking? Where are we looking for these
One of them's
videos?
called The Circus. Actually, I think there's a VHS behind you that it's on it. I found an old VHS player the other day. There you go.
Wow. Here's one I found
It's in
earlier.
there.
Yeah.
If
So
only
that-
we
that-
knew how to play a VHS.
That was not set up at all.
It
Actually
actually
wasn't, but yeah.
What happened is the other day, because we've obviously all been in lockdown,
Yeah.
I dug the old VHS player out the cupboard, and I found that there are a lot of my old astronomy movies that I used to kind of watch. One on Stephen Hawking there, one on planets and different things.
Mike Stewart,
and
Mitch
I found,
Rawlins.
Yeah, I found.
Mitch
I found
Rawlins
that.
is a Gold Coaster, I think, bodyboarder.
I'm not sure. That's the first one I was in, but it ended up being so it's in the stack section of a lot of sort of movies.
Wow.
But yeah, so
Funny.
back to
So
momentum.
hopefully that's on YouTube.
That was a crew. When I was back in London, I watched a load of surf movies. I was like, I want to do that. I want to learn how to surf, and I wanted to learn to surf and skydiving.
Yeah.
When I watched Momentum, I was thinking, shit, I remember reading that. I remember when Kelly burned Rob, and he cut back, and Rob Machado was getting that barrel. And Kelly's cheering, and he comes back and they bump hands or they slap
high
hands.
fives him.
Yeah, and then it's like, it gave Kelly a chance to go back out and get another wave. Or
It seems very, very calculated. They were insinuating that Kelly basically pretended to high five him just so he could get priority on the next wave.
yeah, it was funny, but I remember that, and then I was thinking, fuck, I remember these guys, and I didn't put it all together, and then I realised, oh, they all lived in a house together, and
Yeah. So, without spoiling the documentary for people, it basically follows a group of kids that all ended up on the North Shore of Hawaii together, hanging out, and they basically took over the surfing scene, and they all starred in a movie that was the first surf video with punk rock in the background, which spawned its own offshoot of actual festivals where they'd go and play punk rock, and
Mate, I used to love Vans Warped Tour.
all that sort of stuff started originally. From
Allegedly.
what they're saying from back in.
well, I think they nicked that off of skaters, really, because skaters were doing those sort of punky garage punk videos for years before that, and then that's what they did. They went from that Endless Summer style, that scenic. Oh, and here we are, we're all rocking up at this beach from nowhere, and then riding longboards, and it was like, dung, 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 and just.
But that's how you used to find out new bands. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was Rage in the morning, or you'd have a surf or skate. Used to skate, so a lot of skate videos. You'd hear a song. It's changed now.
Have you been in a band like that?
I have been in a punk band.
He was the man.
What was the name of the band?
Good question.
No, but what was the name of the band?
So the name of the band was Good Question.
Oh, right.
True
So,
story.
and the story, what it is, we actually walked into we were in a punk club. It was like an underground punk club in Sydney that we wanted to.
What was it called?
Oh, mate, I can't even remember the name of it now. But there used to be a really good underground scene in Sydney, kind of back in the 90s to 2000. And there could be now. I mean, I'm definitely not me at the moment, but we spoke to the promoter about getting a gig, and we've been talking to him a few times, and we sort of got to know him, and he said, yeah, perfect, I'm going to give you guys a go. What he's up to, and I can't remember, it was like 4, 5, 6 weeks away, and he's like, what's the name of your band? And we looked at each other and said, oh, yeah, good question, as in, yeah, good question, because we didn't even have a band name yet. And he's like, yeah, that's hilarious. And we're like, okay, I guess that's it. So we just ran with that. But yeah, it was a bit of fun. I mean, it never really went anywhere, but it was never really about that. It's just kind of, hanging out, playing music, and good times.
You were skating then?
Yeah, 100%.
He's still a good skater.
A skater. Not anymore.
He's
Not anymore. What I find now when I hit the deck, there's no more graceful roll out of it. It's basically just... I'm not sure if that comes through on the mic, but that's the sound.
Solid impact.
my kids ride scooters.
Yeah.
So we're down a skate park. Aiden, Tim's boy, rides a skateboard. We're down a skate park. He rocks up. He's got his skateboard under his arm. He drops the bowl at Ballina. It's like totally. I was like, he's not going to do it. Like he's just going to do some kick flips and that. Then just shreds the bowl.
Helmet? No helmet.
No helmet.
Too hardcore.
Nah, just under his arm. No one was even expecting him to do anything other than shuffle along. And it's like, and my missus is there going, oh. And then all of a sudden, it's just like this dude, you're like, everyone's just panicking because he's just like gone
Call
over the edge.
Call the ambulance quick.
We're like waiting to rescue him. And then he just shreds the bowl and then comes out like it's nothing. Like, oh my God.
Learning some stuff about you tonight, Tim.
Mate, I tell you, my garage, I reckon, to be very similar to Youngy's. It's the things that could have been. I think there's not much that I haven't tried.
He goes good on the skateboard.
Actually, and I think the reason that we get along a lot, we've been good friends for years now, is that pretty much there's not much that I would say to Mark, hey, would you have a go at this? And he does it, and probably vice versa. We're pretty much up for trying anything and everything. I say to people, they go, oh, you're turning 40. I'm turning 40 this year. They're going, you're going to have a midlife crisis. I had a midlife crisis when I turned 18.
Mate, I've been like, I've got to get it. I've got to do more.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to try this. So, I mean, for me, pretty much turning 40 and having a midlife crisis is normal. I mean, there's not much.
Yeah, I've been in one since forever. I've been in one since forever.
Maybe I need to have one.
Definitely.
Mate,
everything.
He's got me into every single sport since I've been here. In fact, he's the reason I did jiu-jitsu. He got me into kayaking, spearfishing. Kayaking.
What, kayaking? We did that for a while.
Whitewater kayaking. I can do an Eskimo
You
ride.
got to say kayaking.
Kayaking. Mate, and I'll tell you the thing about him is he took me kayaking and we waited till a flood. Do you remember that time it was seriously flooded? There's a certain river he took us to that you're not supposed to kayak when it hits a certain height.
Solo Man. Do you remember him?
Yeah, I
No.
do remember
Remember
Solo
Solo
Man?
Man?
Yeah. Sliding down the banks. Yeah.
Off the waterfall.
Well, waterfalls. We didn't really do any waterfalls, but we nearly killed me, didn't we?
No, what happened
Seems to be
is
an
we
underlying
got to a
theme.
corner and we'd pulled over.
Yeah.
And I'd said to Mark, we can't see the back end of this rapid, don't go through it. And he's just charged straight into it.
I didn't know it's dangerous.
Yeah, it ended up being, because the river was in flood, obviously, a river will follow a certain line, but when it floods, it'll push wherever it wants to go. And it just so happened that it had flooded a bank and was pushing straight through all these trees. And
Oh, shit.
so Mark's gone around the corner and he's just gone straight through all these trees. And we've sort of seen him go in and haven't seen him come out. And, it wasn't, that was one of the times you've probably nearly died.
Yeah, one of them. It was good fun.
Yeah, it's good fun.
That was good fun.
What I was trying to say before,
Yeah.
all these guys that are the absolute goats of their sport, they've all just got something in them like that. They've once they cross the line, they just nothing gets in their way. So Michael Jordan, there's been the Netflix special, The Last Dance. You've got Lance Armstrong. I haven't watched that. There's one out on Lance Armstrong at the moment. It
On
looks
Netflix?
really good. I don't know if it's on Netflix. Yeah,
No, I haven't seen it on
could be on Netflix last night actually. Yeah, and then you've got Kelly, and it's basically all, they'd throw their best friend under a bus to win.
They would. I think they would.
It's just interesting.
It's that competitive, the competitive edge. I suppose that little difference that makes them, want to drive to
And that was
win.
the big thing with Kelly, is that the only guys that could beat him ended up being his mates. So then he had to start beating his mates.
Yeah, he kind of burned them a bit, didn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
It was good. They're all sort of seemed like they'd all buried the hatchet now.
Well, I never liked him from the time, because I liked Rob because he was a goofy foot, and I was a goofy foot. So it's like, yeah, he's my dude. And then when Kelly did that to him, this is back when I couldn't even. I'd only, I'd be reading the magazines. I couldn't surf, but I'd follow it and I'd be like, yeah, he's my dude. He's a goofy foot, and this guy's just, like, he was kind of hated as well because he'd done the whole Baywatch thing and was, not that popular. He'd gone from being popular to unpopular and was like the bad guy. And then he burns Rob, who's like everyone's favourite guy, like, Mr. Nice Guy. And then as he started getting older, he come back to being like the dude that all the 40-year-old guys like. They're like, yeah, he's doing it for us, So it's like, it's nice that he made that transition.
Everyone
back
just
round.
started to recognise that he was just the greatest of all time at it.
I think when like 11...
Does he deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as some of the greats of other sports? Like,
Oh, more so.
I've heard the argument that it's subjective though, that because it's judging and it's not like he's the fastest man in the world or the strongest man in the world or
but then
scored more points than anyone else. It's
Yeah,
like judges made those decisions. Like how many heats did he win because he was Kelly Slater?
okay. So if you're going to go solo,
I'm not saying that's my point of view. I'm just saying that's a point of view.
but but there's always like variables that don't get factored in. Like, do you say, okay, he's the greatest fighter of all time, and then you sort of go, okay, well, someone like John Jones, who's kind of had things go his way referee decision wise, or he's had, okay, he was just going to lose at the end of the first, or he was a guy that this is the thing with it, like say the US game to the UFC, like you kind of hear Joe Rogan saying, oh, okay, if a guy at the end of the fight is winning in real life, that's winning. Whereas you're not factoring in the variables. Like, okay, so at the end of the first round, he was getting his ass kicked, but then he got a minute to rest. Same with...
I get that argument, though, because a fight in the street, whoever was winning at the end, that guy won the fight. You know what I mean? But you're not in the street. You're in a competition.
But in the street, did you get a minute rest? Because you know that time when you were just at the beginning of the fight getting your ass kicked and then someone said, hey, you can sit on a stool.
If you lose 3 rounds, you should lose the fight.
I don't know.
If they happen to be the first 3 rounds, you should lose the fight.
I think like if there's 5 rounds and you've lost 3 of the 5, then you've lost a fight. It doesn't
What if
matter.
you win the first 4 rounds, but then you get your ass absolutely handed to you in the 5th, and you walk out looking like Nate Diaz.
Well,
or
you've
Tony
won.
Ferguson.
You've won because at the end of the day, the dude that's kicked your ass at the end or in the 5th round, he got a rest. So
Yeah.
every time you could have knocked him out, he had the reprieve. So why not stick him in
Yeah,
for
but what
20?
if they're 4 rounds where you technically win because you might have done some
Okay.
takedowns?
So
and
didn't
you've done
UFC start? It wasn't UFC 1, and I've actually got some old DVDs in there of UFC 1. Didn't
I
they
just
pretty
think-
much just throw them in?
Yeah, it was just
And
it's
it
style
was-
against style.
No time. There was
I
no
reckon
rounds.
if it gets to the 5th round, they should fight till there's a knockout or a submission.
Well, there was no rounds in the original UFC. I'm sure of that.
I'm
not
too new to the
sure
sport.
now.
I don't know.
I'd nearly be certain of that.
I actually watched on VHS the very first UFC.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've got some DVDs in
A
there.
guy called Elliot Burstow brought it round, and he was into the Wu-Tang Clan. I think he was a kung fu guy.
Was it a jiu-jitsu guy that won the first one?
It was Hoyce. I think he
Gracie.
won the first.
No, I don't think it was the first one.
No, he won the first one. I think he won the first 3. Because mate, the first time I saw jiu-jitsu, I'm like, this is shit. Because I'd grown up watching kung fu, mate. I wanted to see dudes doing
B Water.
kung fu.
You wanted some
wanted
Bruce
to
Lee.
Mate, I did Jeet Kune Do. I did a Chan Chuan show. This
I tried to show my kids how to do a nice roundhouse kick on Sunday.
How'd that work
It's
out?
about snap my groin in half.
the
We did karate as kids. A bit of Shotokan, green belt, lethal weapon.
we did Muay Thai.
Muay Thai was good fun.
Mate, he's good at Muay Thai. He's annoyingly good at everything.
Now I know why he starts so many fights at the pub, Timmy.
Mate,
Weapon.
I'm a lover, not a
Mate,
fighter. I never
he's-
want to fight anyone.
he's a chess player. That's why I like cuddling. Cuddling's good, mate.
It is good. I like
It's
cuddling.
good. It gives you time. I think maybe it's the guitar. Because he's good at playing the guitar and that. There seems to be something snappy about.
Is he one of those? Is he one of those annoying people that just tries something and they're good at it?
Yes,
Not at all.
absolutely.
Not at all.
Absolutely.
Says the guy with like a dozen guitars on
I
the
keep
wall.
buying guitars because I keep thinking if I get a new one, I might be better, and it just doesn't ever happen.
Mate, he's humble.
Very humble. Yeah.
He's not at
he's
work.
humble.
He's not at work, though. He tells everybody
he's
how
humble
good
on
he is
air,
on a
mate.
regular
He's humble on
basis.
air. He's humble on air. But no, he's we went to. They got me in as the third wheel to make up some privates, and we were doing CrossFit.
Yeah, we just wanted it to be a little bit cheaper. And
Yeah,
we're like,
that
oh,
is
who are we gonna-
exactly why. After
who we
convincing me to play
That's not true.
indoor
at all.
cricket, we were playing
There's no
indoor
truth in
cricket.
that.
We're playing indoor cricket. We'll get back to a story about that in a second.
You might run out of tape.
Yeah, we were playing indoor cricket, and then he decides just as I bowled a gear that we're going to now go and be UFC fighters, and they need a third guy to make up these
So
private
he's,
lessons.
he's a one-season specialist. Just one season in,
Yeah.
dominates out
Yeah.
next sport.
Gone.
So I bought the wicket keeper gloves. I bought a box which at some stage got filled with deep heat, Tim, and
That wasn't me
yeah,
alone.
alone, yeah. So yeah,
That's why I have
I
no interest of getting in the
I think
on
that's
the mats with you, Young.
that's its own podcast.
Oh, we could do a
times
story
that,
just on
times
that.
that Timmy stitched up Youngy.
mate, he stitched me up.
We're running out of time though. We need to get on to this week's science update. What do you
We
got
do
for us?
need to, because I have a question.
What about?
I've got a
So
flat
what-
Earth question. So what's your question?
So I was going to say this week. I thought something that I actually was blew me away is I went out. I don't know, it's a couple of weeks ago now to have a look at the Eaters meteor shower.
Yep.
And there was a comet. I can't remember the name of the comet that was going to be visible, and I thought I'll just go check it out. And it was around 4:00 in the morning, and I pulled up down at the beach, down at Boulders.
I was going to do that too. It was a bit cloudy up home, so I didn't worry about it.
Oh, it was mint. It's absolutely mint. I pulled up anyway. I've looked up in the sky and I've seen 2 satellites moving super slow, like really slow for what you'd expect to see a satellite. Normally they're quite quick through the sky.
Yeah.
And then I've looked and I've seen another one. And then as I kept looking, there was like equal spacing, just these satellites moving across the sky. And at the time, I had never seen it before, and I kind of in the back of my head was like, that must be the Starlink, which is Elon Musk's new satellites that he's launching up.
What?
It's called Starlink, and it's basically a network of satellites that Elon Musk's launching So I think to date,
Oh, you sent me this. Yep.
I think he's got approval for about 11,000 satellites to be launched with pending approval, and they're approved. So 11,000 with pending approval of about another 30-something thousand satellites.
Are they the shoebox size jobbies?
They are, so they're small. I think at the moment the ones that are up there are just for testing. So the idea of these satellites is they're a. Hang on, let's pour a beer here.
Just get the IPA going,
Let's
mate.
just see if we can get.
She's punchy, the old.
It's
The old IPA's got some kick for a bloke that's not been drinking for a bit.
it's like 7.5%. So these
Thanks,
are
mate.
actually. Let me see if I can bring up. I was going to chuck
Actually,
something
can I grab a little half a glass there, Timmy?
100%.
Because that'll be it for me.
So if you look, behind you on the screen, Matty.
Is that some sort of barcode?
So what that is basically what you see. So they're a network of satellites, and if I go across, you can sort of see what it's meant to look like when it's finished.
I've seen this movie and it doesn't end well.
So what he's actually trying to do is it's a low-cost, high-speed broadband. So essentially these things communicate by a laser. So they get the information, they shoot a laser between each other, and the idea of it being in space is that in a vacuum, the speed of light, so information can travel at the speed of light.
Yeah.
And that's actually affected by certain things. So inside our atmosphere, that would make it a lot slower, or we send it via fibre optics at the moment, so it's considerably slower. Whereas in the vacuum of space, you hit about 300 million metres per second, is something like that, is basically what this information travels at. So what you're looking at on the screen, and you potentially can't see it if you're obviously listening, is a network of satellites. So, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of them. It's amazing to see. So there's a
It's
lot
going
of
to stop them all from crashing into each other.
They can actually be controlled. So he can control everything. They can move them so that they actually don't hit space junk. And
So
essentially, at the
Elon
end of
Musk, visionary, man of the people, or
I'd say there's a lot of the issue with this at the moment is, and it's already a problem with astrophotography.
reptilian overlord. What do you reckon?
Well, that's the problem is when you take photos. So you take an exposure of, say, a galaxy or nebula. It's hours of footage. So when you see a beautiful picture that someone's actually taken,
I've seen this already. Yeah.
That's not a 30-second shot or 2-second shot.
So all the space nerds like you are getting cranky because he's ruining their photos.
He's basically ruining the photo. So what you're talking about is when you have a network like what he's talking about, you are not going to be able to have a photo of the night sky that's not completely littered with.
Why doesn't he paint them all
satellites.
matte black or something?
So you are true they don't all reflect. So depending on where the sun's positioned in the Earth, you won't always see them. You can actually go to if you Google Starlink.
Isn't there a paint that's like you can?
Not reflective.
Well, it's like literally absorbs every piece of light that touches it. There's
I know that paint. I can't remember what it's called. I know exactly what you're talking
Bring
about.
that up, young Jamie. Oh fuck, where's on there?
Yeah.
But basically, at the end of their life cycle, so you're true in some way. You won't always see them.
Yeah.
And there'll be different brightnesses. But you can actually look at a thing called Starlink Tracker, and it'll tell you when they're going to pass over. You can go out and see them. It's absolutely amazing to see. I stood there I went to actually see one thing, but for pretty much the whole time, I stood there just watching this train of satellites just come over the sky. It was the most amazing thing.
And
I've
it's all
ever
about
seen.
reliable internet for regional areas or something.
It is. It's high speed, cheap, and reliable internet. Those things at the end of their life cycle, they bomb them back into the atmosphere and they burn up about 95. But what he's quoted is, or what SpaceX have quoted, is roughly 95% of the satellite will actually burn up. It's only essentially the central chamber that houses the laser, because that has to be of high temperature. That won't burn up on re-entry, but essentially
Come through your roof.
Well, you'd hope they'd bomb it into the ocean, but not that that's a good thing, by the way. But basically, at the end of their life cycle, they are designed to burn up on re-entry.
I feel like the jury's out.
Most satellites
are designed to.
They've got a 10-year window before they have to pitch back down into the atmosphere and burn up.
Yep. So they can control them. When you look at that network, it's massive. So they actually have the ability to steer those things, and it's crazy the size of a shoebox. But I think they're all prototypes at the moment. I don't think anything that's up there is actually going to be what they're using. Essentially, what they're doing now is a lot of testing on steering and how it all works.
He's selling all his possessions. He's just going to.
He's already done it, except Gene Wilder's
I
house.
did see that. Yeah.
He's kept Gene Wilder's house.
Good choice.
Yeah, apparently it's all freaky and pimped out.
So
So
You
what was
go
your-
from
what was your
space
question?
space
My
link.
question was
you go.
good, right? Because so Dragon went up. Did you watch it?
Oh, so that was
Oh,
the
yeah,
weekend.
that- yeah,
SpaceX
yeah.
launch.
So SpaceX
was-
went
yeah.
up, Dragon went up, and
I did watch that.
it's quite good. I was sitting in the front room with Max, and he's going, "A spaceship's fast, Daddy," and I'm like, "Well, initially they're not that fast," and within about 3 seconds of launching, it was doing 250 k's an hour.
Yeah.
The speedo's down there, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe they're faster than I thought. I thought it would kind of squat for a while, but it really started hooking in, and I knew." To basically, for a satellite to not fall towards Earth, it needs to be going at a speed where it falls faster than, so that it matches the curve of the Earth in its fall. So technically, the space station is falling.
That's assuming the Earth is round.
Yeah, assuming the Earth is round, which
Yeah.
is a safe bet.
I didn't think I'd see it, but it's up for debate. It is up for debate.
It is, and
Not anymore.
yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm saying, oh, it's going to have to get up to 17,500 k's an hour to catch up with the space station, because that's the speed it goes, to stop it falling towards Earth, because it is technically falling towards Earth, but it's also traveling with the curvature of the Earth, so it's always falling at the same curve of the Earth.
Yeah.
And because there's no resistance, it kind of stays at that pitch, and it's a calculation they get bang on, and so yeah, they're technically, because they are still subject to Earth's gravitational field. But I watched the capsule hit like 25,000 k's an hour.
Over
So
25,000.
I thought they were going to go straight up, marry up, and meet it, but then it's like a couple of days, and today, so there's quite a considerable amount of.
So it was not 19 hours. Something like 19 hours between.
They're,
Yeah.
they're on the space station now.
They're on the space station
Yeah.
now, but it was something like 19 hours. I mean, there is a window, which is why they can't delay like that. The initial launch, which was meant to be Wednesday, the window was something like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It was nothing. So essentially, the storm that caused them to delay it, within about 5-10 minutes, they knew that it had basically passed and it wasn't going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But their window of launch. It was basically that window. They did not have
She's
an
gone.
opportunity. It's gone. Like, we are going to miss the space station. It didn't work anymore. And essentially, that's those fine decisions. Because I mean, originally they had to launch for Wednesday. Can you imagine how many millions of dollars that costs to go for that launch? They fueled the rocket,
Yeah.
and then they have to basically completely.
Did they take all the fuel
They
out?
take all the fuel off. They
God.
unfuel it. Everything comes down. It's back to square one. And I mean, that would have to cost millions of dollars. The next thing they're doing by 2024, so essentially that was one of the first American manned space flights since, I think it was 2011.
It was a fair while, yeah.
It's been a while.
They've been relying on the Russians to get them to the space
Yeah.
station.
Yeah,
So
Kazakhstan.
the next target is the moon in 2024, and then obviously Mars.
You'll do it?
They'll do it. They'll definitely do it.
Hashtag boots on the moon.
It's happening. Well, essentially, what they're doing is there's going to be a similar to the International Space Station. There's going to be a constant space station orbiting the moon, and they're going to actually have a manned station on the moon, and that will be something that's getting. So basically, they'll be traveling from the moon's orbit down to the moon, building an actual land-based station. And they're going to be doing things like, the idea is that they then
Is there
mine
ice on the moon?
100%. So if you actually look, there's the moon there. You can see here up the top
Yep.
here, that's all ice. So that's
Is
ice.
that the
So
moon?
that's the moon. It's a lot smaller. I've shrunk it down and
It's a
brought it
lot
here
shinier
just
than I
for you.
remember, yeah.
But basically, I mean, it's water. So water's what? Hydrogen and oxygen. So the idea being that they can produce, extract the hydrogen for rocket fuel. They can obviously have drinking water and then oxygen for breathing. So
Yeah.
the idea is to have a mine on the moon, which I suppose, is that a good thing? I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure that's
It's pretty
that is a good
amazing.
thing.
It's pretty amazing. And
Then there'll be a big chunk out of the moon. Like, you'll just see a big.
that's right. There'll be protesters
Actually,
up there.
reminds me of another show that you might like on the Apple streaming service called For All Mankind, and it's from the point of view, what if the Russians had to beat the Americans to the moon?
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen
because
it.
basically once the Americans got their the space race stopped, like
Yep.
it was all over. But this sort of toys with the idea of, well, they would have kept going and would have been the first to do this and the first to do that. It's not a bad show. I haven't got all the way through it yet, but it's something they talk about is they're trying to find the ice on the moon. Yeah.
Very good.
Brings us nicely on to Battlestar Galactica and the box set I bought the other day.
That's you.
Yeah, it's still good. Still good.
Haven't seen that one.
The not the very first lot with the guy from the A-Team in it, but the reboot in 2000 and early 2000s. But they're going to do it again, so there's going to be another Battlestar Galactica.
The question I got for you: people that believe the Earth is flat and that something's being hidden from us. What I don't understand what they think we're then on. If it's flat, like, what's the bigger picture? Like, what's outside? What's outside the disc? If
Well, they have.
or are they saying nothing?
Well,
Is there a wall of ice? Isn't it like the Game of Thrones?
Yeah, but what's on the other side of the wall?
The people that are keeping their eye on
Well,
it.
but
what are they on?
Oh, I don't think they've got that far.
So what are the over? But that's my question, right? So if we I'm with you. I'll go down the rabbit hole. We're on a disc. Then what? What's outside the disc?
I've had a chat with a dude, and the rational thinking is way out the window. Like, the sky is actually, the stars are holes in the fabric or something like that.
The stars are lights.
Yeah, but what's on the other side of the fabric?
The people
Yeah, but what are they doing?
So there's actually
controlling us. That's
You're exactly
but
right.
are they on a globe?
So what you're asking is actually one of the original. And I'm going to not do this any justice.
Or it's like the Truman Show. I'm assuming that if you're flat Earth, you feel like we're all on the Truman Show.
Yeah, they do.
What's outside the?
So one of the original thought experiments of thinking of the universe as being bigger than us.
Yeah.
And it's in actually a documentary that Neil deGrasse Tyson did called Cosmos. And it was an actual philosopher at the time. And the question he had was exactly along the lines that you had, was what is beyond it? If I shot an arrow and the arrow went as far as it could possibly go and it hits a wall, then surely there must be something on the other side of that wall. So then I could climb that wall and I'd shoot another arrow, and that arrow would go as far as it could, and if it hit another wall, then the wall must have something behind it. So essentially, that was a thought, so what you call a thought experiment, which is, when you sort of sit there and think about it, and what you're saying is exactly right. If there's a dome and we're on a flat disc, then that doesn't prove that there's no space. What it actually does is essentially prove the same thing but different. Like, you're saying that there must be a universe. If there's a dome, there must be something on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, a lot of people that have these
We could be. I'm there with. I'll go down any rabbit hole as long as it keeps me entertained. But there's got to be, if that's the case, there's got to be something on the other side.
There's got to be something on the other side.
And to be honest, most people that believe in flat Earth have never been on a plane, at least an international plane trip.
Yeah.
I would think
You
that,
can see the curvature of the Earth, though. But it's not hard.
So we've talked about this before. Essentially, there's a few points, and one of the main points that they'll always go back to, and I'll use the term they, it's not like one group of people. There's a lot of offshoots of people that believe
What I've
this.
found is there's actually arguing factions of the
100%.
Oh, yeah.
And look, I'll tell you, one of the things, the biggest things that doesn't make sense, that is quite hard to explain, someone is something like, okay, if there's curvature of the Earth and I'm standing over a body of water and looking across, say, a lake, why can I see a building that should potentially be hidden by the curvature of Earth? If I do my calculations, the top of that building should not be visible. But there's a thing called, it's called like refraction of light. So essentially what happens is light will actually bend around things like water, and it depends, and it actually varies dependent on the temperature of the water and the temperature of the air. Yeah. This is all proven science. And I mean, it's one of these things that I suppose if you talk to someone, they will grasp at things like that. That's one example.
But we all know that the further you go away, you're going to see the top of the building last.
Yeah, but we also know that if you're walking through the desert, you will see a big lake till you get to it and then find it's more sand.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like a mirage.
That's light, 100%. So light and refracting, it will definitely play tricks on your eyes. So not everything that you see is necessarily true. I mean, and a mirage is a perfect example. You'll see it when you drive down the road. You see light refracting, and that's one of the biggest arguments you'll get, and it's a tough one to argue, because essentially, you're saying all this because of this. I was like, well, that's not true. It's like, well, okay. I mean, very hard. So that's why a lot of people they'll argue that science hasn't disproven a flat Earth. Well, I think science has.
Yeah.
But you do not get scientists that dedicate their life to disproving
proving something that's already
100%.
well known.
I mean, it's someone that's
Well, they just wander off and go, yeah.
yeah, that's
like the
right. I mean,
anti-vaxxers.
you'll find a million videos of people proving the Earth's flat. You'll struggle to find scientists that put time and effort into proving the Earth's
three of
round.
us, the three of us did go and see that Sean Carroll bloke, and I've got no ability to disprove anything that he said, but none of it sounded real.
Did sitting in his presence, did you, all of a sudden you realise you're like, oh God, I'm like plankton.
I didn't retain any of that information because I was worried I'd lost my car key, so I was looking for my car key.
Yeah, that was a bit of a distraction for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I found hard though, apart from all of it, was just sitting there looking at him and seeing how comfortable he was, just taking questions, carrying on with what he was going on with, and staying on point and still understanding everything, while I was just sitting there going.
I reckon a lot of those people there's two kinds of people: the people that actually understand, and the people that are just pretending to understand because they want to sound smart.
Oh, there was heaps of them there. There was us.
There was us three.
I didn't even pretend. Let's be honest.
I'm glad Tim had got us slowly bumped back to Rose Ed so that we could all sit together. But
that wasn't. They were upgraded seats apparently.
we were upgraded to the very.
We
back
must all have
of-
been sitting on the toilet. It was
a small room. That was fine. I mean,
Having seen Brian Cox and then
he
going to
was
see, Brian Cox was really good.
yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had come to that.
That was way better from the perspective of
Visually?
visually, it was phenomenal.
Visually,
I feel,
but I
like,
mean,
I feel like Sean Carroll needed some like a slide
Yeah,
deck.
but see, Sean. I mean, what Brian Cox and Sean Carroll were delivering were two completely different things. So Brian Cox was doing a more, similar to what you'd look at.
Brian Cox was talking
if someone
to
was to say,
morons.
"Hey, tell me,
100%.
give me someone that I can go and, I'm just new to astronomy and astrophysics or quantum physics. Who should I go and watch, podcasts or videos?"
Yeah.
Sean Carroll would 100% not be the person that you would send them to. But Brian Cox is very much, his whole basis of why people enjoy
Very
him because he really
understandable.
breaks things down, to a level. Neil deGrasse Tyson's the same.
Yep.
Carl Cox would have been.
Tim took us
Carl-
to
sorry,
an
Carl-
actual lecture.
Carl Sagan would have been exactly the same in his day. He had the original series Cosmos, easy to consume, delivered. I mean, this guy's he's a professor. He's not interested in whether you understand what he's talking about or not. He doesn't care that you're walking into the room and these people just have no, and not in an arrogant way, but essentially he's there to talk. And if
I was
you
trying to
don't
go back.
understand, that's
I was
your
trying to
issue.
think back. Oh, what's an electron again?
It's so hard, eh?
He's got a really good book. Actually, I've got a book of his somewhere. Is there a book behind you there? Is there a black book in the case there somewhere? I can't remember what it's called. Something Deeply Hidden. It's called. Is there a book on
That's one of his.
Is that the only VHS player? What are you
in
doing?
Australia? Yeah.
I don't know if that's suitable though.
What's
either.
in it?
The movie.
Just like
No,
some
don't read it out. Don't read it out. It's not suitable.
grotty porno. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Something
at the
Deeply
gym.
Hidden. So that's a book that Sean Carroll wrote to make, to bring, I suppose, the mystery of quantum physics and his many worlds theory to the consumer that didn't have an understanding of quantum physics. Let me assure you that he does not achieve that. He may feel like he achieved it, but
Yeah.
I mean, you will. There's pages of that book where you've got to read it like 4 times, or paragraphs, I should say, to kind of then. But it's a really good. We probably. I mean, obviously you come along to that with maybe not much of an understanding of quantum physics, of many worlds theory, and of his.
Oi, don't point at me like you do know what quantum.
Yeah,
I
he's
don't.
doing-
No,
he knows what he's
I
doing.
don't. What I was going on to say is that it's super complicated. I definitely don't understand it, and I actually went in with a hope that he was going to break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
that's
little
why
bit
we were
more,
all there.
And I looked at it thinking, no, he just spoke about. He just spoke about quantum physics and many worlds theory, and he really didn't give me any more information.
Do you know the thing about that whole what would you call it? That whole night that annoyed me the most was that girl who stood up and went, "I'm a Marvel nerd," and I'm like, nah, you're just a chick who likes Marvel films like everyone else. Like, I'm a Marvel nerd. That doesn't make you...
Oh, yeah. Everyone wanted to know whether the Avengers Endgame story could have
because he contributed to the Endgame.
That's right.
And he did the same thing with Thor and that. He gives some advice on that. Are we out?
GoPro gone.
On that,
The GoPro's died.
That's basically the GoPro's got a little sensor in it, and if we start talking too much bullshit, it just turns itself off.
I've
So
got the bullshit
shit.
meter down there. You should have blasted that.
on that note, we'll wrap it up. As always, thanks for listening, people. You can find us at Beers and Banter on all the social platforms. Do us a favour, hit subscribe, like, or follow. We really appreciate it when you share and leave comments. Had another hoot tonight, and I'm hoping we can do this semi-regular down here in the music box.
Definitely.
Thanks
Thanks for coming on, boys, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
See ya. Bye.